Hey y'all, it's Michael, and today I just wanted to talk about the books that I'm planning to read during November. So, November, I have two basically major plans for reading anyway. I don't know if I'm gonna stick by this, but we'll see how it goes. Oh, before all of this, currently right now I am still reading, physically, I'm still reading It by Stephen King. I'm a little bit halfway over now, so my plan this weekend is to actually try to finish this. I'm on page 612, so it's like 1200 pages, so 600 pages, that's like 200 pages until the 31st, which is on Monday. So that's what I'm wanting to do for the rest of October. You guys, it's so good. It's just, for the past few days, I've just been finding out that trying to find time to read is a challenge for me. It's not that I don't want to read, it's literally sitting down and trying to find ample time to read, which is hard. In November, I am joining the read-along for, I am joining the read-along for the book club that I'm in on Goodreads that, Conrad host. I'm gonna leave all the links and stuff down below. We are going to tackle Swan's Way by Marcel Proust, and yeah, this book, we'll see how this goes. So we'll see how this goes. There's like 500. There's about 500 pages, so maybe 100 plus pages a week. I think that's doable. But also, we're going to be reading a short story. I think it's the first short story from Runaway, a short story collection by Alice Munro. So we'll see how that goes. These are two authors that I actually have never read anything by. I'm really excited for this because this is a book I don't think I could have read it by myself. Like I would need some sort of motivation for it. So I'm planning to go with the read along. So there's that. Also during November, it is Nonfiction November, and I wanted to sway my reading and try to read more nonfiction because I really enjoy nonfiction. So I am going to plan to read 2 physical books and then a bunch of audiobooks. I'll talk about that in a few minutes, but the physical book. So the 2 non-fiction physical book that I want to read are, the first one, this is a book that I have been saying in my head that I have been wanting to read for years. I bought this like 2 years ago, 4 years ago. I bought it a while back, and I have been wanting to read it. It's on this shelf right over here that I have where books like, Michael, you need to read these like now. So, and that is Far From the Tree by Andrew Solomon. This is from the first, because I started on this before, but from the first few pages and from the little things that I have read, it's basically, I believe it's about like connections and relationships with people. Because like Far From the Tree, you know how the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So that's what it's about. The first chapter, I believe, is like about Solomon's relationship, I think, with his father. Because I only read a few of it, and then for some odd reason I stopped. But this has, first off, it's freaking huge. So physically wise, this is my main chunk of Nonfiction November. I think this would be a great like balance between this and Proust, because Proust is going to be like a challenge for it, and I'm going to go with the actual group. So if I'm behind or like I'm a little bit ahead, then I can just keep track and see how everything is going. So if by any chance I get to finish this, I do want to read. I hauled this book back like a few months ago, and I never got around to reading it. And that is Alone in the Kitchen with an Eggplant: Confessions of Cooking for One and Dining Alone, edited by Jenny Ferrari Adler. It's basically a whole bunch of authors talking about the art of eating alone, because I'll talk about this when I hauled this, but I love eating by myself. Like I have no problems going to a restaurant and going by myself with my book and reading, or vlogging sometimes, if you've been watching this channel. But I don't mind. Like I actually enjoy eating by myself. Like even with my family, I mean, every once in a while we have family dinners. We don't have as much now. Like we don't actually sit down as much as we used to before. As before when I was like growing up. Now we're all adults and doing different things at the same time. But I really enjoy sitting down and eating by myself and then just like listening to an audiobook or a podcast or watching TV. I just like really enjoy it. Also cooking, I really enjoy cooking. If you have been following this channel for a while, you know I love food. I just want to read something about food. I find that when I have a big book like this, reading it physically and digitally helps the process tremendously. Because a lot of the books that I personally have, my library will have it on digital. So what I do is I just go back and forth. I can only do this with English books, like books that were traditionally published in English, because sometimes with translated works you get different translations. So I when I do read that, like with Murakami, usually he has several translators, but I make sure that it was the same book and it was the same translator. You can have that problem. So since this was written in English, I do have a digital copy of this. So I'm going to be going back and forth. Another possibility digital book wise that I want to read, and I have been wanting to read this forever, and that is Black Boy by Richard Wright. I saw a play, like a one-man play of the first chapter or first portion of this a while back, if you watch that vlog, and I was so like it really opened my eyes. I was like, wow, I need to read this book. Next is the big chunk of Nonfiction November. I'm going to do a separate video on this, but nonfiction audiobooks are the best. They are the best way. It's like a gateway drug to audiobooks, because nonfiction audiobooks, it's like listening to a program, especially if it's written really well. Just because the way we process listening, like on the radio, like when we're listening to radio, it's similar on how a nonfiction tells its like story. So that's how I got into audiobooks, because I listened to a nonfiction before and I was like, oh my god, this was so good, which was Columbine by Dave Cullen. The next video I'm going to do is audiobooks, not nonfiction audiobooks, because I have a lot of recommendations. They are the best genre to listen to for audiobooks, so I would recommend them. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I feel like I can get through these pretty, like a good pace. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, the first one is The Boys on the Boat, 9 Americans and Their Epic Quest for Gold at the 1936 Berlin Olympics by Daniel James Brown. So this book is about boys on a boat, 9 Americans. Okay, yeah. I don't know anything about the Berlin Olympics, so this would be like an interesting thing to learn about. Another one that I saw that my library had was, all of these, by the way, are like from the library because audiobooks are expensive, so there's that. The next one is Unbroken by Laura Hildenbrand. This is a possibility just because, I mean, there's a movie about this and I don't know that much about it. I know it just deals with like World War II. I know that it has a movie, so it would be interesting just to listen to the audiobook before watching the movie. The other one that I saw that my library has is Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking by Suzanne Cain. I think this would be a really interesting book, intriguing to learn about introverts, because I don't know if I classify myself as an introvert or an extrovert, because I really enjoy like being by myself, but at the same time I don't mind being with people. It's just that I would rather be by myself. So yeah. The next one is, now this is the huge, like big one that I'm going to tackle during November, which is The Emperor of All Maladies, a biography of cancer by Siddhartha Mukherjee. Now, this book is incredibly long. I think it's over 20, I think it's 20 hours actually. And I mean, basically this book is about cancer. So I'm gonna see how it goes, because it's a long audio, it's a long book. So we'll see how that one goes. That's really interesting. I always enjoy books, like sciencey books. Okay, so the next two is a subgenre of nonfiction. It's true crime. I love true crime audiobooks, just because it's so crazy that all this murders and killings But then come to find out, it's just really intriguing to me. Like, I just really enjoy true crime. Some really good ones can really convey an atmosphere like Helter Skelter. Oh my gosh, that audiobook is fantastic. But that's the next video. I have two options for this because the first one is one of like the essentials of true crime, which is In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. I say this as a possibility because I think this would be a book that'd be better for me anyways to read physically, just because of, I don't know how his writing is and how like his syntax and his word choice, because sometimes if an audiobook, if it's a little bit harder to grasp, I would need to physically read it instead of listening to it. I'm just not that good yet at listening to audiobooks, like fantasy and classics. Those are two genres that it's really hard for me to listen to, just because the way my brain works, it doesn't grasp it as I would as if I was physically reading. The other one is The Good Nurse by Charles Graeber. I only read the synopsis really quickly because I didn't want to be like know everything about it, but it sounded really good. It's about a nurse who would kill people in the hospital. It sounded so interesting. I think I'm gonna start with In Cold Blood and see how that goes, and then if I can't really get the grasp of it, then I'm just gonna go to The Good Nurse and see how that one goes. So another audiobook that I got from my library that's a possibility is Ask a Mexican by Gustavo Arellano. I think that's how you pronounce it. Arellano is apparently a columnist, I believe. Yeah, he's a journalist. He writes a column for, it's called like Ask a Mexican. I was planning to listen to this for Hispanic Heritage Month, but I never got around to it. So I thought it would be like a good thing to read for Nonfiction November. But this talks about Mexican American culture. I believe that's what it talks about. So I think it'd be a really intriguing book to listen to. These are all just possibilities. I might change all of a sudden because, you know, it fluctuates. So yes, those are the books that I want to read during November, and planning to anyways, but I want to. So we'll see how November works. So yes, if you read any of those books, please let me know what you think about them. I would love to hear your thoughts. No spoilers, please. So until then, I'll see you guys. Check out my next video after this. I'll post it in a few days. It's basically going to be recommendations for nonfiction audiobooks. So yeah, until then, I'll see you guys till later. Bye!